Oh, I like that. Nice.
Blue sky smiling at me. Nothing but blue skies do I see.
Woo!
Bluebirds sing a song.
Hey, everybody.
Nothing but bluebirds all day long.
Oh, that is fantastic. Are we on?
Going so right. Noticing the days hurrying by. When you're in love, my, how they fly. Blue days.
Very nice. Kurt, thank you for playing that. We have a terrific show planned for you guys today. Welcome to Deborah Kobylt Live. And that was the music of Don Most. A lot of you people would remember him as Ralph from Happy Days. Thank you so much for being in studio with us.
Oh, thank you, Deborah.
There he is. We're going to get to your days on Happy Days a little later in the show.
Certainly.
I am thrilled to have you on. We had a really terrific conversation yesterday over the phone.
Yes, we did.
We were just speaking a little bit just now before we went on, just getting all of our technical stuff ready. But you are here today, not only to talk about your distinguished career, but your latest CD, which I find fascinating. We loved it. We were listening to it a couple of times last night. We were just enjoyed every minute of it.
Great.
And it's called
D-Most.
D-Most. I love
Mostly swinging.
D-Most, mostly swinging.
Yeah.
And, you know, for a lot of people, when they're remembered for one thing in particular, everyone knows you as Ralph on Happy Days, right?
Yeah.
Everyone.
Pretty much, or a lot of people.
A lot of people,
Yeah.
right? Maybe if you're over 25. They'll know you as that. And a lot of people will go, wow, he does that too?
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
this is such a wonderful collection of music, particularly back music from a certain time, and which is still remains popular.
Very much so, yes.
Can we go to his sizzle reel a little bit just to show a little bit of Don performing? Can we? If you want to talk over it a little bit, if it wouldn't interfere.
Sure, I can. Okay. This was from my very first show about 3 years ago at Vitello's in Studio City.
Let's hear it.
What a rare mood I'm in. Why, it's almost like being in love. And from the way that I feel, when that bell starts to peal, I would swear I was falling. I could swear I was falling. Why, it's almost like being in love.
Oh, I feel like I'm right there.
Yeah.
I love that. I love it. We'll play a little more of that later.
Sure.
Just keep your sizzle reel up and go back and forth to it. So again, for those who know you as an actor, when did you get interested in singing and in music? And because you were telling me this was a love of yours going way back from when you were a little kid back in New York, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I was singing before I was acting. I was performing in the Catskill Mountains one summer when I was just turning 15 years old, up in all the hotels and nightclubs up there.
Those Catskills, it had a lot of talent back then, I'm telling you.
Oh, yeah. So many people played there.
So many people. I have a
Yeah.
friend. He's one of the fastest backwards talking guys in the world. I think he holds the Guinness Book of World Records. He started there. So many really, distinguished people started up in the Catskills.
Yeah,
But you were a little kid when you started.
Yeah, I was 14, 15 years old. I started even before that in terms of pursuing it when I was about 13, going to a school in New York City that was run by an old vaudevillian guy named Charlie Lowe. And then I got picked from that studio to be part of this professional review. And I thought I'd made it, big time, because at that age to be performing, professionally and doing all the music that I grew up loving from the time I was, I don't know how old, but loving the songs from the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, the great American songbook, if you will.
And this is back about when? Was this the 60s, I guess?
Yeah, the summer I spent up there was 1968 in the Catskills. Yeah.
But that's interesting for a young man, right? When the Beatles were a big deal and the Rolling Stones, you like the old classics. I mean, were people like, what?
Yeah, there were people that thought it was a little weird. I mean, I also loved all what was happening in the current music world at that time, the late 60s and early 70s, was an incredible renaissance time for music. So I loved that. But for performing and what I wanted to sing, and that was in my blood more than anything, were the great songs, the jazz standards, the stuff that Sinatra did and Nat King Cole and the big bands, Count Basie with Joe Williams doing the songs, or all the great jazz singers. And then my personal favorite, which became Bobby Darin. I was a huge Darin nut.
He really inspired you, right? Because didn't you say Mom would play that music all the time around the house? You grew up hearing that.
Yeah. Well, she played a lot of the big band stuff because she was a teenager and young woman during the swing era in the 40s. So she loved that. She used to love to dance to it, and so she would play those albums, and I started playing them. So that's how I got introduced to that swing kind of feel, which I love so much. And that's a big part of, my new CD is called Mostly Swinging. And I love that kind of, that big band sound, and especially, with great arrangements that have a little bit of a fresh voicings. So it has the excitement of what it used to be, but brings it to date even more. So it's really hip. It's really hip stuff.
When you were a little kid and you have had such a love for this music, did you used to envision yourself up on stage singing this stuff? Because I've often interviewed so many people and they said, I would dream it, and it came true. Was that you?
I guess, yeah. I mean, I thought about it so much. I mean, I guess I was visualizing it before you learned about how to, do visualization to make things come true. But I was dreaming it. Yes, I was eating, sleeping, and dreaming it all the time, and singing along to all those albums and records of Sinatra and Darin and Sammy Davis, and then listening at night to the radio of all these great artists of that genre. William B. Williams was a legendary DJ in New York City on WNEW AM, and his show, he would play all these great. So I got an education at a very early age, and then of course started collecting records, and then seeing Bobby Darin at the Copacabana when I was 18 years old. And
that was a moment.
That was a huge, huge moment for me. Yeah.
Did you get to meet him?
I didn't meet him at that particular time, but I did meet him about maybe a year later. I heard that he was going to be performing in Central Park during the summer series that they had at Schaefer concerts.
Aren't they wonderful, those summer series? I've gone to so many of them.
Oh, it was fantastic.
They're so special. I remember going to see Paul Simon. I mean, it's just such a great community thing. And everyone comes together from New York to hear that stuff.
Yeah.
Super, super young little kids and older people in their little walkers. And it's just a great community feeling. And it's really hard to replicate anywhere else, I think.
Yeah, it was special, and I loved it. I went to several of those, and yeah, it was that sense of community, and then being out there in the open in the summer, it's gorgeous there, and I remember they had incredible sound. So I knew that Bobby was going to be performing, so I got there early, and I was fortunate enough to get to meet him after their sound check rehearsal. I saw him walking somewhere and approached him, and I'm sure he thought I was totally out of my mind because I couldn't contain how excited I was.
Did you sort of wait for him and scope it out, or did you have somebody that you knew who said, "Hey, meet this kid"?
No, I was pretty shy actually.
Aren't a lot of performers though? It's so true.
Yeah, there are some that are like that, and I was nothing like the character I played on Happy Days. I was not that outgoing comedian Ralph. I was pretty introverted, shy. So it took a lot for me to go up and approach him. But I knew this was an opportunity that I might never get again, and there was no way I was going to be that close to him and not meet him. So I did approach him.
I missed my big moment. I remember once I was with my dad, and I'm Italian, and Frank Sinatra was coming out of the back door of Carnegie Hall. And we were right there, and my dad said, "Hey, Frank, this is my daughter, Deborah. She's Italian. We're Italian." And he stopped. I thought, oh my God, what do I do now?
Right.
And someone went over and handed them a card and said, "Call on Monday." And I said, "Dad, don't lose that card. Don't lose that card. Because I had wanted to maybe, get into acting. I tried. I dabbled in it when I was younger. And my dad lost the card.
Oh,
I'm
no.
like, Dad, I was going to take it too and just put it in my purse. He goes, no, I have it. And
then he loses it.
And then he
Oh,
loses
no.
it. So I know those moments where you're either waiting for someone or they come back and your heart just stops. So,
Yeah.
so that must have been quite a moment for you.
It was, and I'll never forget it. And seeing him perform, and I subsequently got to see Sinatra perform as well, and Sammy Davis, and those guys were my idols, musical. I mean, and a lot of the jazz greats too. So that was the music that I really, really loved. And I knew one day I would come back to it once I started pursuing acting in a much more focused and sort of committed way. I knew I'd bring the music back at some point. And then with the resurgence of this kind of music in the last, decade or so, I knew this was, if I was ever going to do it, this was the time.
What were you like as a little kid?
Well, when I was a little kid, I was a little bit more. I used to dress up when I was really little in all kinds of outfits, cowboy outfits, Superman. So I had that kind of imagination, and I loved to get into those. Into those
get
things.
into character.
Yeah, so
You still dress up?
And Davy Crockett, and yeah, I still dress up.
So you put on your little Superman costume at home?
No,
So-
no, I've retired that.
You retired that one, okay. So,
But I used to, so I was really into that at a young age. But then, in school, a little, like junior high and high school, I was more like I was an honor student, and I was more like a Richie Cunningham than I was like Ralph. I was nothing. My friends, I had a lot of friends that loved to crack jokes and be the comedians, So I probably drew on those people when I approached that character later on.
it sounds to me like you were just studying your craft even back then. Sometimes when people are introverted, they're thinking about things a lot,
Yeah.
And while everything is going on around you, you're thinking maybe a little about the music or just, you're being introspective about your own interests. It's possible.
Yeah, I mean, I have a tendency to think too much.
A lot of artists are like that, though, don't you think?
Yeah, probably, and I have to sometimes, really taper that and try to, because, when you're in a performance mode, you can't be in your head too much.
But don't you feel like as soon as the lights go on, all of a sudden you can focus on who you are supposed to be, and those lights go off, and then you're thinking again. I'm like that too. I'm on and I'm fine.
That's the way it should be.
As soon as the lights go off, I'm thinking about everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as you can do that. But for me, sometimes the battle is turning that part off, because sometimes, usually, when the lights go on, whether it's on stage or in front of the camera, that usually happens. But sometimes that other guy gets in the way a little bit, and you have to really shut him down.
Get him out of there.
Yeah.
Okay, so then you got an opportunity as a teen to go and perform in the Catskills.
Yeah.
And then what did that lead to?
Well, I remember after that summer having kind of a long discussion with my father, who it was his idea. He said, I think you should think about, it was my idea to pursue all this. And they were supportive as long as it didn't interfere with normal school, studies and doing your work and then going to college and all that. So they were supportive. And he said, and he'd seen me do some acting in some plays at school or in camp and all that. And he said, you might want to think about, if you really want to do this, taking a more serious acting class.
That's great,
as well.
because back in those days, or at least when I was growing up, I really wanted to take acting classes in New York, and my parents said, no, it's
too far-fetched, too crazy.
It seemed insane.
Yeah.
Just be a bookkeeper. And I'm like, well, no. So it's great that they were so supportive.
Yeah, incredibly supportive. I mean, as long as it didn't interfere with the normal stuff, which was, I look back and
your studies, yeah.
Yeah, it was very, very smart, very sound thinking, and I understood it then. I understand it probably better now, but so I did. We found an acting workshop in Manhattan that I started going to, and that led to, the woman who ran the class, a woman named Eleanor Rabb, she had a sort of a friendship or a relationship with a manager, and I guess she would, when she came upon some of her students that she thought the manager should meet, she introduced me to the manager, and she wanted to take me on as a client. I was 16, and I did, and I started working with her. And then I started going out on auditions
in New York.
Yeah, for a lot of commercials initially, and then I started getting commercials. And
what kind of any commercials that we would? I mean, you always remind me of that Mikey kid and you know that Life cereal thing. You know that cute kid, but I know that wasn't you. I mean, what kind of? Because you've got such a look. I mean, you have a distinctive look, a likable look. So, what kind of commercials did you get back then?
I did a lot of ones. I did, Schick Razor Blade and Rice Chex and Coca-Cola. I did a big Coca-Cola commercial.
Big stuff.
And McDonald's, a lot of nationals. I did
super big stuff.
I did like 40 commercials in those 4 years. And
wow, all back east. You did that?
Yeah. Well, the first year while I was in high school, and the next 3 while I was going to Lehigh University
out in Pennsylvania. And you would just commute in a lot? I
was
guess?
Commuting a lot for the auditions. I remember that.
That's tough, yeah.
First year, I remember we couldn't have cars. You weren't allowed to have a car as a freshman. So I would walk a mile into Bethlehem from school, then take a bus ride that was like 2 hours and 45 minutes, and then get on the subway and go on an audition that would last 5 minutes, 10 minutes,
All right, we'll let you know. We'll call you later. And you're like, oh, my gosh, I have to go 3-4 hours back now in the snow?
Right.
So.
I mean, when I look back, it was like, what? How insane. But, when you're that, I don't know, I was pretty single-minded about it. And I wound up getting more commercials. And you asked one, it's funny, I didn't even know this. I did one with Robbie Benson that was a
commercial? What was it?
Reese's Peanut Butter Cup, which they started playing.
Do we have any of these? Oh, my God. You've got to come back and show us.
They were showing that on TV Land at one point.
I love commercials. I love the older commercials. Yeah. They are so fun. And to see somebody like you in one, I'd go, oh, well, that's him.
You want to hear something funny?
Yeah.
I didn't even know this at the time because nobody knew. I did it when I did the McDonald's commercial.
Did they make you eat that stuff during the commercial?
I can't remember, but there was another gentleman who was in that commercial with me, but I didn't know nobody, he was just another actor at the time. So somebody calls me, this is about 3 years ago, and they said, oh my God, they just showed you on, I think it was when Jay Leno was still on. So I don't know how many years ago that is, 3-4 years ago. And they said, they showed you on a commercial, a McDonald's commercial, because his guest was Morgan Freeman, and Morgan Freeman was in the commercial with me, and they surprised Morgan Freeman by showing this commercial. And it was me and him.
Laughed, and he must have obviously recognized you too.
Yeah, they said that's Donny Most from Happy. So yeah, there were some memorable commercials that I did.
So that really set you on a path. I mean, commercials alone are just a big deal to do.
Yeah, well, it got me going. It got me my SAG card.
That SAG card, right? Once you get it, that's golden.
It was a big thing.
Yeah.
So I got that, and then I started getting out on some other auditions. I did a little bit of TV in New York, but very small because there wasn't a lot going on there. Soap operas, but I wasn't looking to do that. And theater. And I came close on a couple of Broadway plays, came really close, but didn't quite get them. And then I decided to go out to California after for the summer. It was originally only going to be for the summer. After my junior year at Lehigh, I was going to spend the summer out there to broaden my networks.
You just wanted to see what would happen. So.
Yeah, and try to get an agent and get ready so that when I graduated, if I wanted to go out to LA, I'd have some plan and connections.
But you never really came back. So what happened then? Lehigh calling. So what happened then? Did they ever give you an honorary degree, by the way?
Not yet. Maybe they'll.
We've got to call them. Come on, Lehigh. You've got quite a distinguished student that attended.
Yeah,
we've got to work on that. You really should be called back for your honorary degree.
I would like that.
Really, Donny?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So and by the way, I was just in Philly doing a show, which was an hour from Lehigh, and a couple of guys that I went to Lehigh with me surprised me and showed up at the.
Oh, that's the best.
Yeah, that was really
It's like
cool.
It was yesterday, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's fun. Okay,
so
you're in L.A. and where did you land? I always like to know, like you just sort of landed there and you think, wow.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm here.
Well, what I did for that summer, and looking back, I was pretty smart. What I did, because I didn't know where was I going to stay and I didn't know anybody, so I registered for some summer classes at UCLA, got to stay in the dorm. And at
you
UCLA,
thought about this as a kid to do this?
I was I was about
Like
16
18?
at no, what I'm talking
Like
about. I was
18, 20,
20.
whatever,
I was
yeah.
I just turned 20.
Smart kid.
And so I stayed, and it was a great place to stay at UCLA. And then I met people there who were going to school,
Theater people,
and they
and,
had
yeah.
they had their rec center, which was gorgeous with this pool. I mean, it was like
I know you're thinking, wait a minute, this is a far cry from New York and Pennsylvania.
and Brooklyn,
right?
So it was a great place, and then I got to know my way around, and I met some agents because of my connections. My New York agents knew some LA agents, and so I took meetings, and then I got an agent that wanted to sign me, and then started sending me out on auditions, and I landed a couple of roles fairly quickly. So, guest
What were they?
One was show Emergency, where I played a guy who became paralyzed because he got in a car accident.
Oh.
So my early parts were dramatic, which was what I was much more interested in.
Who was-
Then I did a police story where I played a mad psycho bomber, a mad bomber. And then Room 222 I had also done, that was a
Room
comedy.
222.
Yeah.
My sister used to watch Room 222. I
Yeah,
remember it.
It was
That
a pretty popular show, yeah.
I remember I couldn't relate to it. I was just a little kid, and I'm thinking,
Yeah.
what? They're having all these problems in high school. Wasn't it a high school? Like
Yeah,
kids in
high school. It was.
And I remember just thinking they all looked weird to me. But I know it was a really, really, really popular show.
pretty popular, yeah.
That must have launched you too. So you got all that really quickly.
Yeah, and then what happened? I got the first two really quickly, and then what happened was the summer was nearing. It was over, and my agent said, I know you're going back to school, but
You got momentum.
You got some mojo going, and it's, why don't you? The season's really starting to get busy. We think you could do well. Think about taking 6 months off and continuing what we've got going for you, and then you could always go back. And it was like animal instinct. I didn't think for it more than a millisecond. It was like, yes, that's what I'm doing.
It was visceral. It was
Totally.
really inside, and you
Yeah.
knew something was going to happen. So how did you make that call back?
Well, what happened is I actually,
Mom,
I
Dad.
actually had flown back from my sister's wedding, which was on Labor Day, and my manager who lived in New York was at the wedding, and she was the one who relayed that message to me. And so I had to then go tell my parents. It was in the middle,
Middle of the wedding. Oh, by the way, look what's happening. And then you just ran away. What could they do at the wedding, right?
Yeah, so, and I had to talk with my father. I knew that he wasn't going to be happy, and they were concerned, but I said, look, I'm not quitting. I'm just taking 6 months off, and because of the commercials, I could finance the trip myself, and just go out and do it. And then if things didn't go really, really well or continue to go well, then I'd go back to Lehigh. So literally within 2 days, instead of joining my friends where we had an apartment lined up, I had to tell them
At Lehigh?
that I'm not making it.
Oops. So did you go there with your car, pack up, and take off?
I flew. I flew back to L.A.
Wow.
And then found a place to stay, and then I was out there literally pretty much by myself. I knew I'd met a couple of people that were still there, and so it was an interesting time.
So with that weekend, that whirlwind weekend, so then what happened? You came back to Los Angeles, and
Yeah.
then didn't you almost get to read for Happy Days immediately after that?
No.
No? Okay.
No, it was like about 3 months later.
Well, that's almost immediately. I mean, it wasn't
Yeah.
like 5 years later.
Yeah, but there was like this period where I'm going, I made a big mistake because like
Oops.
nothing was happening.
I might call Lehigh back because I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So
So I was like really thinking that, okay, this was a bad decision. But then I got the call to meet with two of the exec producers, Tom Miller and Ed Milkus, and then based on that they called me back, and I read for Gary Marshall and about 10 other people in this big room, and then they called me back to do a screen test.
was that the first time you had done that?
A screen test? Yeah.
Yeah, that can be
a bona
really
fide
scary
screen
because you're
test.
thinking, wow, they're really interested. This is big time. I cannot screw it up. I mean, are you nervous when that happens, or do you just feel like I'm just going to do the best I can? What will be, will be.
No, it was excited nervousness. I mean, it was nervous, but there was a real excitement level to it that was positive, So, it's a myriad of emotions, I guess. And and Gary Marshall was directing the screen test. And so it was.
And you knew who he was.
Yeah, I knew he was because he had he had The Odd Couple on the air at the time. That was his show with Tony Randall and Jack Klugman, and that was a big success on ABC.
I can't imagine being the parents back home saying, "You won't believe who Donny's reading for," right? Like the guy who did The Odd Couple, right? Were they super excited for you?
Yeah, they were definitely super excited, and
Wow.
But and then after the that's a whole long story, which maybe another time. But it was a long, long day, and I felt like there was no chance in hell that I was gonna, get cast. And
Did you know Ron Howard was already in it? Did they tell you who the
he
lead was?
Ron Howard and Anson Williams were screen testing for it, even though
he was Ron Howard even then.
and even though they had done the show a year and a half earlier and it didn't sell. They had done it a year and a half earlier, the two of them playing Richie and Potsy, and it didn't sell. But then American Graffiti came out and was such a big hit, and Grease was out on Broadway, so the executives at ABC said, "Wait a minute, maybe we had that show about the 50s," and they talked to Gary that they want to maybe do it but redo. They said, "We have to do a new pilot," and they thought Ron and Anson might be too old to be playing high school now because it was almost 2 years later, and Gary's like, no.
The Fonz did look a little old. I remember thinking, what happened? I mean, did he get held back? I remember.
He had dropped out. He
Yeah.
had dropped out, and then there was a whole episode where he came back to school, so he was supposed to be older.
Yeah,
than all
well,
of
they
us.
had to do that sort of a little bit. Otherwise, he didn't exactly look like a 10th grader.
Well, and that was the intent from the beginning, that he was a character that was
ongoing.
Yeah, he was older than us, and he was the guy that everyone thought was the coolest and most intimidating guy or whatever, But anyway, so I at the end of that day, I saw Ron Howard and Anson Williams screen testing. I didn't know who Anson was at the time, but I knew that I'd heard they'd done the show already, and by the end of the day, I thought there was no chance. But then they called my agent and said, no, he's not going to do Potsy, because that's who I was auditioning for. And they said, but the executives, everyone liked his screen test so much, they want to create a role for you and make you a regular in the show. So that's how, and there was a small...
That's how you became Ralph.
Yeah, there was a small part for Ralph in the pilot. Had like 2 scenes where he came in and made a couple of wisecrack jokes.
He was adorable. He was so loving. They all were in their own way because they were all so distinctive and different. Do we have a little clip from then? Can we go to that? Maybe you can walk us through it.
Uniforms. I kind of dig them.
Well, these aren't uniforms. These are locker room scraps.
Where are we going to get money for uniforms, huh? We're lucky the Reverend Harlan gave us enough money to buy caps.
Okay, then we need someone to talk with him and convince him that we have to look good to play good.
Why don't you go down today, Rich?
Me?
Yeah, you're the team captain.
That's only on the field. Look, if I go, we all go.
Okay, we'll all go. But you talk.
But if the Rev starts one of his deep theological discussions, I'm splitting. Our ideas are miles apart.
Come on, Ralph.
It's true. He's against everything I deeply believe in.
Like what?
Like necking, drive-in movies, girly books, Inspiration Point, Bridget Bardot.
You go to church every Sunday?
Of course, I'm as religious as the next guy. What's wrong with these uniforms?
That's great. That is just
I remember.
Great. Do you remember doing that scene too? I mean, and how did you play him? You just instinctively knew how to play Ralph.
It was an evolving kind of process. At the beginning, there wasn't much to go on, so you just do it on instinct and based on whatever circumstances are going on, and then it started building as Jerry Paris, who's the director for the most part, who is a brilliant director. He and I love to come up with things that weren't always in the script because we'd get ideas, and so it started growing, and the writers would see that, and it sort of evolved. It's one of these. It's hard to even explain the process. It's like this weird alchemy,
Well, it's true. It morphs into what it becomes, which is a classic, and you were on it for 7 seasons.
I was, yeah.
Clearly, that's like a family. You're all working together. Did you, were you all very close when you were on set and did things offset? So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, we were very, very close. That when people say, what do you attribute the success of that show to? What's the single most? I would say that the chemistry that we had, the relationship that existed and grew, and it was like this kind of magical. Whoever put the cast together, you got to give the executive producers a lot of credit for assembling this cast because it was one of those matches made in heaven. We all just fit like a glove with each other. So it was a great time, and we respected each other professionally, and we all took it very seriously. It was, even though we had a lot of fun, we took the work very seriously.
Well, it was a popular show, and it was in people's living rooms, and people really, when they get to know the characters, they feel like they know you. You almost, don't you feel like you have a little bit of a responsibility to show up every week and entertain these people, a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, I just remember us being very focused on making every scene as good as it could be, and really trying to achieve excellence. And at the time, we weren't taking, even when we became pretty successful, eventually #1 show in the country, we weren't taken very seriously by the industry, because I think they looked at it as,
because it was a comedy,
and this kind of comedy, I think they looked upon it like, oh, it's a bunch of kids goofing off, having a good time.
How things have changed.
But when you look back, I mean, look at the talent that was there.
Huge.
Yeah, and look what Ron has gone on to do, and what Henry has gone on, and Tom Bosley was, a great talent, and Marion. I mean, this was and I always felt this way. It was a very talented group of people that worked hard to make something look easy. But so time has borne that out a little bit more than when we were live, current. And a big hit, but not, I don't think we were given enough credit on a creative level.
You're all still in touch, aren't you?
Yeah, I just saw Ron a couple of weeks ago, and Anson and I stay in touch constantly, and I spoke to Henry recently, and Marion. So
I told you we bought his wife's house. When we bought our house over in Brentwood, it was
Yeah.
his wife grew up in it. We always had I have these little connections with him all the time, but I've never met him. So one of these days, I've got
Yeah.
to meet him, because we're connected
Yeah,
in
you'll
some
have to.
interesting ways.
Great guy.
Oh, absolutely. I know quite a few people who know him, and I've never heard anything but the whole cast
he's
was just a
wonderful.
good group of people. And,
Yeah.
when Erin passed away, that was really sad, but she was the youngest member.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
always very difficult when kids are younger and they start acting.
Yeah, it's
and
a
it's
very
a whole
difficult
different
thing.
sort of thing. I believe them starting when you're 20 or 21.
That's what
because you're able to handle it.
Yes.
And she was a good girl. She was
a really great kid.
Yeah.
Well, the kid, she was 13 when I first met her. She was
that's
a
a
kid.
kid, yeah.
But she was a great lady, and it's very sad. She developed throat cancer, and it's really sad. So we all got together to remember Erin at Marion's house a couple weeks ago, and that was really nice.
That was wonderful. Did you look upon the parents of the show a little bit as your parents? Did they guide you through things as you were younger? Did they even give acting tips or life tips?
Life tips, definitely. Yeah, Tom used to love to counsel us guys, because we were all getting our first. Eventually, we got our first home, and he would be advising about that sort of stuff financially.
I love that.
And life, and we got that from Jerry a lot too. Jerry was with us, on a day-to-day basis as the director of probably 90% of the episodes. He was very well known. He had directed most of the Dick Van Dyke shows and played the next-door neighbor, Jerry Helper. And he was an amazing guy and an incredible talent. And he taught us a lot. And Gary Marshall was a great influence to all of us. He was a mentor as well.
So after 7 episodes, 7 years on that show, you decided to leave after 7 years.
Yeah.
Was it because you get tired of working the same job after 7 years? Everybody does that. They work in the local bank. They want to leave after that 7-year itch thing that happens.
7-year itch,
The
right.
7-year itch. So is that what happened with you, and you just decided to move on? Was it another opportunity, or why did you decide to go?
It wasn't really another opportunity. It was a combination of things. I felt, I'd been playing this character for 7 years, and as an actor, I like I said, I wasn't really even like that character, but I could feel sort of the walls closing in terms
that.
of being typecast and being so associated with this character. And I was 27, and I wanted to do so many other things as an actor that I felt that was the big thing. I felt I maybe need to move on, because I'd been doing this. I loved working with everybody, but playing the same character and knowing that it was going to start getting tougher and tougher to make that break, you know.
So fill in the blanks for me. You left when you were 27 years old. I know that you met your wife, who you're still married to, currently married. In Hollywood, that's practically impossible. You've been together 35 years. You have 2 daughters.
Yes, incredible, wonderful.
That's beautiful. I think that's so amazing. So all this time has passed, but you come back to your true love, which was music. And the big band time, and
yeah, I don't want to say it's my true love because I love acting,
right?
And I feel like I've only touched the surface of what I want to do as an actor. I mean, I've done a lot of other things after I left.
What are some of the other things that people would remember you from after that? Of
more
course?
recently, I guess I had a recurring role on Glee, and then I did guest starring roles on all kinds of shows, from Men of a Certain Age to Star Trek Voyager and Yes Dear, and you know, on The Crow. And then I started doing I love doing independent films, and so I've done a bunch of those. It was in one called The Yankles. I did one.
What's that one called?
The Yankles.
The Yankles. What's the Yankles? I like that.
The Yankles was about a group of Jewish guys from their school. What do you call it? I can't remember the kind of. I can't believe the yeshiva.
I was just going to say the yeshiva, but I didn't want to get it wrong. So
no, the
okay.
yeshiva. That they have a baseball team, and they start. And I played the father of one of the kids who's studying to become a rabbi, and he gets into the baseball because I was a former Major League Baseball player, but we're alienated. I'm sort of a semi-alcoholic, and we're alienated. So it was an interesting.
I love how they write these characters.
So it was interesting. So I did that. You know, I appeared in a film with John Malkovich called The Great Buck Howard. I had a nice scene with him.
I know that film, and he is an outstanding actor. He's
Sure
always
is.
been one of my favorites.
Great actor.
I think I saw him in play. Oh my gosh, now it's throwing me off. Down in the Cherry Lane Theater down in West.
I saw him in Death of a Salesman in New York, and then there was another one.
What was that? I don't remember.
Yeah, no, he's wonderful.
He is phenomenal.
So that was great, you know. And then a bunch of I just recently when it was out this fall, a psychological thriller called Follow, and I played a very strange character that.
So you really cross over a lot.
Yeah.
You do odd characters.
I like playing
fun characters.
That's what I love to do, all kinds. So, like I said, I'm looking to do that. I love acting, but singing was my first love. That's how I like to put it, my first one. And so it's great that I'm getting a chance to do this live in theaters and clubs around the country, and now having the CD out. And I want to continue that. But I also want to do acting. I'm almost more motivated now than I have been in a long time, and I don't know why. But
you go through that. You have a resurgence of a lot of energy and creative energy in particular, right? So that's in you right now.
Yeah,
probably
very
want to
much
do it
so.
all. You want to perform and sing and act because that's who you are.
And I've directed 3 independent films, and I have some projects right now that I'm working on trying to get going, and I want to do that again. So I love it all.
How about we hear a couple of tracks? Can you start us off, Kurt? Do we have Blue Skies?
Oh, yeah, well, you were playing a little Blue Skies already.
Yeah.
So why don't you play, play I Got It Bad and That Ain't Good.
Do you have that one? Take your time on that.
Or you could play I Wish I Were in Love Again, either one.
Or surprise us.
What are you looking at on your list?
This makes you
This
wanna
is
get
I
up
Wish
and
I Were in
dance.
Love Again. Yeah.
I swear to God, I just want to get up and dance.
Yeah, people do that at clubs. They do.
Anywhere, sitting in their desk.
Sleepless nights, daily fights, the quick toboggan when you reach the heights. I miss the kisses and I miss those.
You are amazing.
I wish I were in love again. The broken
Wait, this one really builds. It really has a great, build to
my
it.
headphone is sticking to me. I can't. It's going to flying off onto the floor.
flying plates. I wish that I were in love again.
Wow, what a voice you've got.
Oh, thank you.
No despair.
Is this one of your favorites?
I don't know. It's hard for me to pick because I love them all,
You know, I'd rather be punch drunk. Believe me, sir, I much prefer the classic battle between a him and a her.
Now it starts to build. It's going to modulate right now. go up in key.
Come on, we should get up and dance. I just know the camera's not set up for it.
The self-deception that believes the lie. I wish I were in love again. When love congeals, it soon reveals the faint aroma of performing seals, the double crossing of a pair of heels. I wish that I were in love again. Hey, no more strain.
You got to sing along to it.
Feeling no pain.
I don't have the lyrics.
Today I'm sane, but you know I'd rather be punch drunk. Believe me, sir, I much prefer.
The classic battle between a him
That was a cool ending.
I can't stand quiet.
Come on, sing
Here
for
it
me.
is.
That I were in love over again.
Oh, I love that.
Cool ending.
We have a huge studio audience for you, clapping for you. Did
That's
you hear
so
all them
nice.
back there?
I'm
Hey,
very-
only the
I
best
was
for
very
you.
surprised and
That
happy.
was wonderful. I just love watching your face. You just sort of morph as though you're right there on stage.
Yeah, oh, the music is just,
Wow.
I get so high when I'm doing this live, you know, when the band's cooking and I'm really into it, I feel like I'm floating up to the ceiling.
And also to get a reaction from
the
the
audience.
audience when they
Yeah.
love your stuff.
Yeah, oh my God, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, and it also helps you to keep going.
Yeah.
Because you think, oh gosh, you know, could you imagine being a comedian? Oh, we've all been there, right? Where we're in the audience
And
and the
there's
guy
nothing-
is bombing.
Yeah,
And I'll just laugh just to make the poor guy feel good, you know? But that must feel awful, right?
Yeah, that wouldn't be good.
No,
Yeah, I could never do stand-up.
I would never go back. No, that
I
would be
could never
difficult,
do that,
right?
yeah.
But what you're doing and to just see the joy on you're bringing them back.
Yeah,
right?
and people, like you talk, people will literally get up, you know, from their tables,
Oh, I
and
would.
people start dancing.
Oh, if I wasn't like connected to all these mics, I would have done it right now.
And you know what's really cool is that this music, I think it transcends all ages.
yeah, I mean, you do not have to be like an older person because I don't know that song.
No, and when I did a show at a place here in L.A., a great club called the Cicada Club, downtown L.A.
I know it.
And they have a dance floor in front. And there were all these young swing dancers.
Super cool. Well, a lot of the young
swing-
dancers. I mean, come on, look at Dancing with the Stars.
Yeah.
It brought all that stuff back.
And they're in there, I mean, they're in their 20s, and they're loving this music and swinging to it and dancing. And recently, this guy online started following me. He's called the Young Star Supporter, and he's been writing about my music. He's like 15 years old, and he's writing and tweeting about
Speaks
it.
to him. I mean,
you know?
remember over the phone we were talking about Tony Bennett
Yeah.
and how I think it was his son
Yeah,
got
well,
him
initially that acoustic set on MTV, you know, and
Yeah.
then to go with Lady Gaga.
Yeah, and they just sort of put him out there with the younger set of
Yeah.
people, and he did that with Lady Gaga, and just it transcends.
Yeah, it does.
I think it crosses over to all generations.
And I'm seeing when young people are at shows, they love this music too. So that's why it's thrilling to me to cross those bridges and get everybody. It's just great music, and I love sharing it, you know.
Can we go back to your sizzle reel, or do you want to play another
Sure.
song from the CD? What do
Whatever
wanna
you
do?
prefer. Let's see if we're going to do something from the CD. Well, maybe I Got It Bad, if you could find either that or After You've Gone. Oh, this is After You've Gone.
I just want to get a cigarette and lay back.
Yeah.
There's the mood.
After you've gone and left me crying, after
Wow.
you've gone, there's no denying. You feel blue, you feel sad, you'll miss the dearest love you've ever had. There'll come a time.
Willie Mario on trumpet, my producer.
Don't forget it.
Do you perform at the same guys?
There'll come a time.
Out here in L.A., I have same guys, and in New York, different guys. This is another one that really builds. We're just getting the setup now. This is the setup. Now it's getting ready to go into another gear.
Belt it out for me. Go ahead.
Here it starts to come.
Can you sing for me a little here?
Not on this one. I don't want to mess with this.
To let somebody turn around your mind. And after the years we've been together, the joy and
Get ready for the big finish.
Uh-oh. Can be blown out of
Here
my
it comes.
someday blue and downhearted, you're gonna beg to be with me back where you started. After I'm gone, after I'm gone,
Here we go. Yeah.
That's beautiful. We had more people come in the audience for this one. That is beautiful. The
I love that.
instrumentation is incredible.
Yeah, Willie
how large is
Murillo.
your band? I mean, how many guys are in there, and women, of course?
Willie Murillo produced and did these incredible arrangements. I'm a big stickler about the arrangements.
Well, you have to be.
And when I heard Willie, some of his stuff, I knew he was my guy. And he brought in 17 great top jazz studio guys here in L.A. And then on that one, there were strings on top of it. So it was probably about 27 pieces for that song, 17 and then the strings.
How many songs are on the CD?
13, 12 big band stuff, and then one bonus song of me and just the piano.
You're not doing any rap or anything? No, I thought you were going to say one bonus song with a rap.
No.
I'm thinking, oh, wow. That would have been
rap.
cool.
I guess with
Next
the
one.
name D Most, you might expect
Yeah,
it,
with
right?
D-Most, doing a little bit of rap toward the end. There's your surprise song, but next CD maybe we'll do that, right?
I'll think about it. But there's a bonus song of just me, a great old saloon song, one for my baby, with just me and the piano, nothing. So it's a nice contrast to the big band stuff,
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, it's really
So
neat.
what's next for you? Are you going to be performing? Are you going out and you're going to take your show on the road, your CD?
Yeah, I've been going around the country doing some dates, and hopefully that's going to increase. I just came back from the East Coast where I did a show in two shows in Pennsylvania, and one being in Philly.
Where your old Lehigh buddy showed up.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And the week before that, I was in Long Island, New York, at the Patchogue Theater and a place in Connecticut. And my next show is not until June at the Mohegan Sun Casino in Connecticut. And then after that, we'll see. A bunch of things in the works that I'm waiting to hear about. But I'm hoping to tour, and bring my CDs around and continue this for a while, and then get back into in front of the camera again. I want to do that.
What an illustrious career. And, you can sort of go in and out that way because you've got the talent and you've been doing it all these years. You've been doing it all. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah. I'm loving where this next chapter is going, and we'll see. I don't know exactly where, but I'm excited about the prospects.
Just then, when you smiled at me, when you said exactly where,
Yeah.
I saw Ralph.
Yeah.
There's Ralph. He just came out for a second.
Yeah, he'll show up every
He'll
once
show
in a
up
while.
once in a while. That's actually really cute to see that. And how can people get a hold of the CD?
On Amazon.com, it's there easily. D-Most, mostly swinging, and iTunes, or if you want to download it, it's there as well.
Yeah, a lot of people would do that as well. So
Yeah.
I think, and also we can find out where you're going to be performing.
Oh,
How's
yeah.
that?
I have to update my website, which is DonnyMost.com, and I have a calendar section on the website. And also I have a music page on Facebook under Don Most.
Don Most.
Yeah,
Okay.
and there's a music page, and I always post, and on Twitter as well, which is most_Don.
Wait, let me do that because I'm going to Twitter about most_Don.
At most.
So if you just sort of
Don.
put in most and Don and most and whatever, we'll find you.
Probably
one way or
yeah,
another.
Yeah, and yeah.
Will there ever
definitely.
be another Happy Years? Oh my gosh, am I saying it wrong? Happy Days reunion?
I don't know. I mean, we've actually done reunions like a few times. We did one in the 90s, and then we did another one in 2005. So I don't.
You're due.
Yeah, maybe. But it would be tough. It's tougher. I mean, Tom is sadly gone, and Aaron, and now Gary, who passed away just like 6 months ago. So, but we still have the rest of the gang. So who knows? We'll see.
Yeah, and you see those guys fairly enough.
Yeah. We're still great friends, and
it'd be
always
fun
will
for
be.
them to always will be. I mean,
Yeah.
it was a moment in time that will always be with you in your heart. Right?
Oh, without a doubt.
Well, I think when we leave, would you like to maybe show a little bit of your sizzle reel? Or do
Yeah.
you want to play another song? What should we do?
No, whatever you prefer. Either way.
I like them both. I kind of like both a little bit. I wish we had a little more time. Let's just show you on your sizzle reel.
Yeah, let's see some
Show
of the
you
sizzle
doing your
reel.
thing.
Pick it up where we were before, I guess, right?
Yeah.
All right.
And here it comes.
That's why the lady, that is why the lady, that's why ladies are tramp.
I guess.
In spite of a warning voice that comes in the night, it repeats how it yells in my ear. And each time I do, just the thought of you makes me stop just before I begin. 'Cause I got you under my skin, and I like you under my skin.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being with us
my
today. It was a
pleasure.
wonderful show. I enjoyed having you, and I hope you'll come back.
I would love to. I enjoyed speaking with you very much.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
And everybody, I hope you enjoyed it. And don't forget to look up Donny Most, Mostly Swinging, right?
Right, that's it.
And iTunes and Amazon and anywhere else you can find him.
Mm-hmm.
And thanks for tuning in, everybody, for another terrific edition of Deborah Kobylt Live. And we'll see you next week.